Welcome back, guys. It's craft time. Now, if you're new here, you may not notice, but if you are a regular, then you might see the change of scenery. We've been working so hard on the house to finally get me set up with a studio, and I'm very excited about it. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this one, but just know I'll have a video coming up soon once I get settled and everything organized, and we'll dive into that a little deeper. So for today's video, I am going to walk you through how I turned this old tray that I found on clearance into a cute little rustic, like shabby chic riser, and also share with you what went so wrong with this project. Everything was going smoothly, and then I hated it. I hated how this was looking, how it's turned out. I got so frustrated that I literally sanded it back down and started from scratch. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right, let's start from the beginning. Let me first say I did this project probably 3 weeks ago, and I'm just now getting around to adding the description of how I did it, just because life has been a little crazy in these 3 weeks. So if I miss anything or stumble along, I apologize, please bear with me. Now this cute tray I found at my local Menards just off of their clearance rack. It was on a big sale, so I went ahead and grabbed it because I knew I could use it for a project. If you haven't seen any of the cute risers that have been made, a lot of them are like farmhouse style. I'm kind of going towards more of a shabby chic with this one. I just wanted to make one because I think they're super cute. Great decor that you can just add a little something to your room, whether it be your living room, dining room, kitchen. I just think they're adorable. So I wanted to give it a try. So I'm going to be using the tray that I picked up. It just has that red, like pre-made design on it and some red leather handles. I knew that I was going to be wanting to take those off, so that was my first step. So I'm going to be using that, the little wooden people that I'm going to be using as the feet, which I got at my local Michael's craft store. I'm going to be using chalk paints, some stencils that I got off of Amazon, and some Waverly Wax. If I'm missing anything, I apologize. I did have my nautical rope there just in case I wanted to add handles back on. I wasn't sure at this point what my plan was, but I went ahead and grabbed it and had it on hand. Let's get started. The first thing I did was kind of feel around on that design to see if I could feel it was raised up any, but I didn't feel anything. It felt like it was smooth with the wood. However, I'm suggesting to you when you do a project like this, just take the extra step and go ahead and sand that off. That way when you go to paint over it, you can't see any of it through, because I was able to see that for my first couple layers of paint, but by my third one, it was gone. But I don't know if I would have been able to save a little bit of paint if I would have just put in that extra effort at the beginning. I've painted my tray and I've painted the feet, so the little people, and as I was painting them, I realized they're not all the same. So this is step number one of things that started to go wrong. When I was in the store, I found them and I was like, okay, these would work great, but let me see if I can find anything else. So I put them down, and when I came back, I just grabbed the next one off of the rack. Well, apparently there are different sets of them, some that are all one shape, some that are different shapes. And so I grabbed one that had two of each. I had to end up going back for it, but I didn't even realize that that was a problem until I started painting them and really paying attention. So another tip, pay attention to what you're doing. Okay, moving along. All right, so after I had painted that, I wanted to go ahead and distress it. And originally, I wanted it to have that natural wood color underneath. So I went ahead and sanded it down, and I think it was looking great. I really liked the colors together. And then I wanted to go ahead and add some stenciling to it. So what I did for this is I wanted it to have a cute word or saying on it, so I decided to go with blessed. I made it on my Cricut, printed it out, and just used regular vinyl, and I planned on using that as a stencil, which actually worked out really well. I was pretty pleased with it. I was worried that it might be too sticky and peel off any of my paint, but it did great. So what I did do was take some of my Rust-Oleum 2x clear coat, and I sprayed it before putting the stencil down. That way it was kind of sealed and adhered a bit to the tray. That way I could peel that off without worrying so much. So I took that. If you don't stencil, having a stencil brush I think is very helpful, or some type of sponge. I've seen people who sponge it on. I didn't like that technique. It's messy and it didn't seem to work as well for me. But if you take one of those stencil brushes, and when I say that, I mean one of those like hard bristle brushes, you know, they're round and they have just like stiff bristles. If you put it down in there and swirl it up to the edges, usually it stays right within the lines of what you need it to do, but it's also more controlled and you don't use excess paint. So that's my suggestion to you if you're new to stenciling or trying to, you know, figure out what works for you. So I put down my blessed, and then I used one of the stencils that I had got off of Amazon in just this pack of 5 to give a little cute design to the corners. I was gonna do all 4 for this one, but then decided against it. I thought that it looks good with the balance of just opposite corners. And then things went wrong. So I have seen many of the people that I watch, crafters and things on other channels, using the Waverly Antique Wax, and it looks amazing. So I thought that it would work fantastic on this and give it a great look. But let me tell you, they usually use it on like white or black. So with white, it gives it like a brownish, like really antiqued old feel. And then with the black, it enriches that color and makes it really like, I don't know, it just gives it like that next level. I was going to try it on the gray paint that I got, and I hated it. I hated everything about it. I didn't really know how to fix it because it's wax. So it's not, when you put it on there, it's not really gonna come back off. So I tried to compose myself and just talk to myself, you know what? You know, now it has more of like a rustic feel. No, I could not do it. I hated it with a fiery passion deep in my soul, and it had to go. So that's what you're seeing here in these videos, is what it looks like at first, but this is not what I envisioned at all. I was expecting it to, I know putting brown wax on something, I should expect it to go brown. I just didn't think it would go that dark. That's probably user error. I hated the way it looked. So I took my sander and I sanded it back down to get all of that off, and I started over. So I decided this time to do a chalk paint white underneath. That way when I added my white stencil on top, the distress, you would see the white underneath and it all kind of flow together a little bit better. Again, at the beginning, I just wanted that natural wood. I did plan on using the antiquing wax and having a hint of brown, and I thought it would tie together, and it was a disaster. So I painted it all with my white. I got it all reset. After I got the white, I went ahead and sprayed it with my Rust-Oleum 2x clear coat. Again, this is an optional step. The reason I'm doing it is to try to set my paint just a little bit. That way, whenever I go to distress that top coat that I'm putting on, it doesn't take all of it off back down to the original color. It just takes it back off to the white, if that makes sense. So when I'm doing that, again, when you're distressing, getting the hard edges is what makes it usually pop and look really good. And the harder you press, the more you're going to take off. And vice versa, if you don't want very much taken off, you would press really lightly. After I had sanded it down and got it ready and how I liked it, I was ready to stencil again. At this point, I was pretty much over this project because I was very frustrated with the amount of time I lost, the materials I lost, just very frustrated with myself in general for not comprehending that if you put brown wax on something, it's going to turn brown. I don't know what I was thinking, so I decided not to use any more of my materials, just use one of the stencils that I had already bought, and I stenciled on the white, and then I did the corners with that as well, which turns out I loved it 10 times more than I did with the blessed written across. So I guess things happen for a reason. So I put it on there, stenciled all of them. When you're stenciling, again, you want to be very careful. I remove my stencil while the paint is still wet. I usually do it kind of abruptly. I just take it and I like rip it off really fast to try to keep any paint, excess paint that might be on there from dripping or stringing together and causing any blobs in the paint. And then once that was done, I would very carefully distress that stencil just a little bit, like barely enough, just so that it's not so harsh and clean against what I'm trying to make look. So with the tray, I'm trying to make it look a little distressed. I distressed the edges. I didn't want a nice crisp stencil in the middle of it, so I distressed it just a little bit to get rid of those harsh lines. So I hope that makes sense. And then after that, I used my clear Waverly Wax and I sealed it in, and I kept that good gray color with the whites, and I think they pop off together very well. And then I was finally ready to put on the feet. To do that, I did go buy a second pack of those little people, so that I had 4 matching feet, which, yeah, I should have just paid attention, but they're not very expensive, so it wasn't a huge loss. To do that, I turned my tray upside down. I used some of my E6000 and some hot glue. So I used both because the hot glue is going to set instantly and keep it from sliding around. And the E6000 is going to give it a really good bond to make it nice and strong, so I don't have to worry about it breaking on someone and not giving them a quality product. So with these little people, they have little holes in the bottom of them. So I just kind of filled that with hot glue. And then I put my E6000 around, and then I put it down. I had kind of predetermined where I was going to put them. It has a nice lip around it, so to keep it nice and even, I just butted it up against that on each side. When you're doing that, my only thing, whether it's this type of project or anything, if you're using E6000 and hot glue together, be careful that you don't let your hot glue get too hardened before you put it in place, and then make sure you don't use too much of it, because the hot glue, when it hardens, you know, it might make it a little elevated and keep your actual piece from touching each other. Therefore, your E6000 is not going to work. To avoid this, or to avoid my hot glue setting before I'm ready, I always put my E6000 on first. So those are my little tips for you. I hope that's helpful. And I think I'm ready to show you. So this is the final product. I love it. So as you can see from the video, I did a nice distress, and I'm sorry, I have moved it since then. It's been sitting in here with my studio as I've been moving everything around. But yes, you can see those nice crisp, I can't see it, edges from where I distressed it. You can see where the feet, I just put them on where that, you know, those lines are, to kind of make sure that they're even all the way around. And then just this pretty stencil, just to give it a little something, make it not so boring. And this actually has a home. They're picking it up tomorrow, so it's a perfect time to get my video done. I love it. I think it turned out great. I'm glad that I started over, because I was not happy with it at all. If you guys do DIY projects or projects in general, you know that they don't always go as planned, and it's very, very frustrating. Sometimes you just need to take a step back. When I saw this and I was just so frustrated, I literally stopped for the day. I was done. I walked away from it. I got fresh air, I had fresh eyes, and then I came back to it the next day. I knew in my heart I was not going to be pleased with it unless I started over and made it what I wanted it to be. So that's my suggestion for you. When you are just so done with it, when you can't get what you're wanting from it, that's when it's time to take a step back. Just listen to yourself, leave it. Or if you have a time crunch and you have to get it done, bring in some fresh eyes. Hey, look at this. This is what I'm trying to do. How do I get there? Talk through with other people. I think that is very helpful. It's very helpful to me. I know that not everybody shows you their mistakes or their little mess ups, but I think it's important for you to know that all of us that are doing this, all of us who are doing YouTube, or we do craft shows, or we're selling things on the side for a hobby, or we're just making things in general, and you see those pretty pictures from the final project, just know they don't always turn out like that. Okay? That might be what you're seeing, but you don't know how many times we're messed up until you got to that point. You don't know what they had to go through to get there. So if you are in the middle of a project and you are just done, or you feel like you can't do it because things aren't going well, take a step back and just know every single one of us who are doing this, it happens to frequently. Okay, frequently I have mess ups, frequently I have this, and it's so easy for me to just edit it out. All I had to do was just show you from the second part forward, and you wouldn't have known any different. But then you wouldn't know that it's okay to mess up. You wouldn't know that it's okay. It happens to everybody. Take a deep breath and move on. So I just wanted to share that with you. I mess up all the time. All the time. And it always works out the way that it was supposed to. So I hope that's helpful. I'm so glad that you guys are back with me today. I apologize for missing this previous Tuesday, but I am back. I plan on keeping my regular schedule on Tuesdays and Fridays. I can't wait to show you what we have going on next. I'm going to take you in for a closer look, and I'll see you next time.